G'day guys, it's Joey Gibbs here, coming to you from sunny Iceland, Australian footballer who, currently plying his trade in Iceland. It was great to have a chat to Harper on the Where Do We Begin podcast, and hope you all enjoy it.
I remember doing the team song and all that too, because it was the debut trip. Yeah. My milkshake brings all the boys the yard. John Aloisi said, that's a horrible... Poor bloke.
Joey Gibbs here from sunny Iceland.
My milkshake brings all the boys the yard. Kevin Muscat said, I can't say the words on this show, I don't think. Don't touch the ball, you little C word.
Thanks for that, Joey. And it is just me, just Harper. Like Joey mentioned, there's no Lockie today because originally this interview was just meant to be for a piece of writing, but the story just grabbed me and did not let go. So decided to bring it to you guys, bring it to the podcast audience, because it's an absolute cracker. And you may or may not have heard of this guy, Joey Gibbs. I don't blame you if you haven't heard of him. He does fly under the radar, even for many, many Australian football fans. He is currently playing in Iceland in the first division for a team called Keflavik. He has played for a few A-League teams, for a few kind of second-tier NPL, it's called, Australian teams. Youngest player ever to play in an A-League Grand Final when he debuted in that game. And there are some pretty amazing stories of what he went through that season and what he's been through throughout his whole career. As I said, this story really pulled me in and has just not let go of me ever since. So hope it does the same for you. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for tuning in, and I won't let you wait any longer. Here he is. Joey, mate, thank you very, very much for joining me on the show this evening, your time. Really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, pleasure, mate. Good to be on.
Lovely. Love to hear that. I'm very, very excited for it. Now, you're in Iceland, obviously, as people would have figured out from the intro and things like that. So when you're up there in Keflavik or wherever you are in Iceland, you tell someone you're from Gosford. Anyone got any idea where that is?
Yeah, usually I just round it up to Sydney. They wouldn't have a clue where Gosford is, but everyone's always pretty surprised when you say you're from Australia here, because I don't think you get further away from, like, two countries couldn't really get further away from each other on the map, so it's always quite rare for them.
Yeah, and obviously kind of Gosford is, I guess, rugby league heartland area. So early days of Joey Gibbs, what was the thing about football that really, really pulled you in, really got you hooked?
My earliest memories of football, I think, because I have two other brothers, and my dad played rugby league. My oldest brother played rugby league, and but then my middle brother, because I'm the youngest, played a lot of football and was quite good. And yeah, that's all we did. We all my memories of being young were going for kicks with him, and obviously, the local football on the Saturday, playing for Gosford City Dragons, and I think my motivation was the lolly bag after the game. Like that, that's genuine there. So, but obviously the love developed, and and that's how it all started.
You're a Liverpool fan now, as we worked out pre-show. Did you were you a Liverpool fan when you were a kid, or has that been more of a recent thing?
Yeah, I guess. It's kind of developed. I wouldn't say I'm a absolute diehard. Obviously not being from Liverpool, it's always hard to be, because we had a boy from Liverpool in our team this year. I think I followed Leeds in the early days when Harry Kewell and Mark Verduc were there.
Right.
But then I think I started, obviously when they dropped out, I think I started jumping on Liverpool, and ever since then I've followed Liverpool.
Oh, yeah, lovely. And you mentioned your brother there, you kind of getting into the game because of him. Has he turned out to be much in the sport? Has he kind of continued his football journey like you have?
My middle brother, he was a promising player. He played all the representative teams and played NPL level. But unfortunately for him, he was just in that generation, I think, that got skipped, unfortunately, with the whole transition from NSL to A-League. You know, he was a little bit older than me, and, you know, I think his timing just wasn't as lucky as mine, you know, unfortunately. Like, you know, there was that transition where they had the boys who were at a certain age were getting picked for the youth teams, but he was just a little too old. But, yeah, so he was in that, in that generation, and it gave it away, unfortunately, which I think a lot of people in that era did, or not era, that generation did. So, yeah, but he had a lot of talent, and he was a striker as well.
Yeah, real shame about that. What's your brother's name?
Tom.
Tom. Well, big hello to Tom.
Yeah, he'd love a shout out, actually, after time watch it. Yeah, he'd love it.
Well, hello, Tom. But you played a bit of kind of junior football, obviously, for the local clubs and things like that. But once you get into A-League level, did you kind of tread the, I suppose, well-trodden path of Sydney FC Academy to Sydney FC first team? Was that the route you took?
Yeah, I think I went through the Sydney FC youth team. I think I started off as a trialist in the youth team, or a train-on, I think it was, and then I got my opportunity from there, and it actually all happened pretty quick for me. I think I ended up getting an appearance in the grand final of my first year in the youth team. I think that was when they played Melbourne Victory, and it went to penalties. I think it was 2010. But it all happened very quickly, actually, that first appearance. I'll always, it's a lovely memory to have in my head, and a great way to make a debut.
Oh, mate, great way to make your debut indeed, in front of, I think it was 45,000 people there at Telstra, maybe it was called, in 2010. But how are you feeling during the bench, or on the bench during the game, in that game? Like, never got in the field before for the senior team, and there you are in front of 50,000, 45,000 people, maybe about to come on in a grand final.
Yeah, it was. I actually look back on it with really fond memories, and I just remember being really excited, which, you know, I think, is a really great way to be as a young player, or as a player at any stage of their career. You know, I think I had a lot of good senior professionals around me in that team. I remember there was Popovic, Hayden Fox, there was the John Aloysius and Steve Corica. I think Aloysius and Corica were injured, but they're all there on obviously the grand final trip, and it was a big moment for the club, obviously a lot of senior heads and really good professionals around who just just their aura kind of settled you down, and I just felt excited for it, you know. I remember doing the team song and all that too, because it was the debut trip, so doing that at dinner the night before. But it was good fun.
What's the team song?
Oh, it was embarrassing. I think it was Milkshake by Kellis, the Milkshake.
Oh, right.
That one. Yeah, I don't know. I think I was coerced into it, because I wouldn't have chosen that. I don't know why I did that one.
Yeah, fair enough. But had you come too close to singing that team song and getting your first team debut earlier in the season, or was it really sudden that you're on the bench in the grand final?
Yeah, it was actually a really probably the most interesting year of my career, to be honest, because I started that youth league season with double stress fractures. I had I was in a wheelchair for 6 weeks. You know, it was actually, it's a crazy story. It was because I finished the NPL season with Manly. I think I was at Manly, and I'd had literally double stress fractures. Couldn't weight bear for 6 weeks, and was in a wheelchair, and then slowly got back into it, and then it all just happened, which was really because I only had maybe 5 or 6 youth team games under my belt before that opportunity arose as well. So it all happened very quick.
What's life like in a wheelchair for 6 weeks?
Well, pretty sad, you know. I think it's hard getting upstairs, you know. You got to crawl up them, and it was funny times. It was but there's a lot of time off school, which was good though. So love that. How old are you then? Like 18 or something? I mean, you want to be out there living your best life. 17, but you want to be out there living your best life, going out with mates. It's a bit tricky when there's not much accessibility. Yeah, mate. Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. It was but yeah, no, I was actually it was a good kind of I don't know, like introduction to I guess my career. You know, kind of. But that's the worst injury I've ever had, and then one of the biggest moments I've ever had all happened in the space of 6 months, 7 months. So it kind of I think it set me up pretty well for what football can throw at you. So or professional sport. So I think I think it made me a little bit more grateful for the game and more grateful for just being able to walk, I guess, you know, but obviously it's not like I go around now just thinking, oh, it's so great to walk. It fades pretty quickly. But yeah, it's good to have that memory in the back of your head that injury can kind of strike at any time. So, you know, you got to enjoy it while you can.
Yeah, really kind of good lesson for gratitude and things like that, I reckon. But when you got on the park there in the last 3-4 minutes, how'd you go? Did you get a touch? How'd you rate your performance?
Yeah, I got a touch or two of it. I actually have a real good memory of. I think I can't say the words on this show. I don't think, but I think.
Oh
Kevin
no,
Muscat
you can say what you want. You can say what you want.
I think I went to touch the ball, and Kevin Muscat said, like, "Don't touch the ball, you little C word," you know. But it was it was just the game, I guess, and it was But no, again, great experience, and it was. Yeah, I get that's how it is on the football field. But yeah, I got a few touches, and we obviously won the penalty shootout that day. So yeah, it was good memories.
Tell me about Joey Gibbs at the nightclub post game.
Yeah, well, that was the first time I've been to club because I was just turned 17. So yeah, got in the VIP line, which was nice. First night out too. So it was obviously not allowed in the club till 18. So yeah, it was it was a good night.
Any particular memories from that night that you care to share?
Nah, to be honest, I think I behaved, to be honest, because I knew I was the young one, and I think it was Steve Corrick was the youth team coach next year, and he was there, so I had to be on the. And I don't think I could be celebrating too hard with 10 minutes under my belt. So yeah, it was. But still, amazing experience.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But a few months later, you were gone from Sydney. So why was that?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a funny one. Like again, it was probably like if I look back on it, it all had the right intentions. The move because I actually moved to a Belgian team, which was in the lower divisions, but it was the idea. It was to be there and be in Belgium for 4 years to get the Euro passport, which would make moves across Europe a lot easier. And it was a fully professional contract. And yeah, I look back on it. If the same opportunity arose at the same age, I'd probably say yes again. It's just that it all fell through. Just the club ran into financial trouble, and I didn't get paid for about 3 or 4 months. So I had to come back home. Literally had to come back home and start all again. Yeah. So that's So that's what happened. It was a funny turn of fate, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're not an economics podcast or anything, but what happened at Olympic Charleroi? I think it is. Like, why'd they get into so much trouble?
Yeah, I'm really not sure. Like, I look back on it, and I was a interesting kind of thing that because there was a lot of like big agents have come together to buy a club, and they wanted to bring this club up as a feeder club for bigger teams in Europe. So obviously, clubs gain transfer fees, and there was a lot of good footballers there, you know, because there was all these big agents in football that brought players there, and the team was doing really well. But then I don't know, all it takes is a few investors not to pull through with the money that was supposed to come in. And yeah, we got one salary, and then the rest just didn't come through. So that's all I know of it.
Yeah, right. There you go. But when you were over there, how'd you fare with the level of things? Were you one of the kind of better players in the Belgian third division squad, or was it still a bit of a challenge to kind of get yourself right in there and get amongst it?
Yeah, well, I remember there was like so there was an experienced striker there who was a French guy, and like it's a long time ago now. I'm trying to think back on it, but I think it was only very early days. There wasn't many football games played because it was in pre-season. I went over there, and I think the season had just started, and that was a few months in. So the whole thing was just going off then with no one getting salary. So but I remember I found it a big shock. Obviously, I didn't coming from Sydney FC where, to be honest, the level of professionalism in the A-League is very good, and the level of facility is good compared to these other European, like not the top European countries, but the other European countries, especially in those divisions, the lower ones. So it was a bit of a shock going back down to that level of things where it's not that professional. But there was a lot of talent there, that's for sure. And again, never really settled. Was in a hotel for about 5-6 months. Which I don't know how the club ever paid for because they didn't pay us. So I'm not. They're probably still asking for the debt. But it was an interesting experience. I think it. Yeah, I look back on it. It wasn't great football wise, but it was good as a human. Going over there and faring yourself. Finding your way in a foreign country with no salary. But it was a memory.
Any particular lessons that you learned as a human when you went over there that you still kind of use now?
No, well, I thought obviously, I don't know, when everything was all bad, you still try and find ways to get on with things. I just remember obviously we'd stopped training and there was nothing to do, and I got along well with a few of the other foreign boys there. I think it was an English boy, and we just tried to enjoy ourselves as much as we could while we're there. You know what I mean? Like and find the small joys in what we had. Like you're in Belgium, a new country that you might never see again. So we travelled and had a good time. Had a few drinks every now and then as well. So yeah.
Well, I imagine the typical Belgian third division team, their scouting network doesn't usually kind of reach out to Australia. So do you know how they found you?
Yeah, well, it was again like how the club was. It was interesting. It doesn't happen every day. It was so the club was bought out by, kind of like 4 or 5 agents, and one agent was an Australian one, obviously. So he brought his 2 or 3 players along that he thought would be able to sell on to future clubs, and obviously the other agents did the same. So that's kind of how it worked. Yeah.
So at this point, when you're over there in Europe and everything's kind of looking rosy at the start, I guess, what are your career goals? What are you looking to achieve in your career at this stage? Yeah,
I don't know. When I was that age, obviously, not that you don't stop dreaming, but when you're 19, 18, you think anything can happen, and anything can happen. So full of optimism and full of like, wow, this is big. It's gonna, it's all gonna happen and it's all gonna go smoothly. But obviously, your path goes up and down and winds around and goes all different directions. But I obviously went there very optimistic and came back a little bit less optimistic. That's for sure. Because I think when I came back to the NPL and then had to start back again in the Sydney youth team, and new boys had come in and done well and gotten first team spots. So I had to, literally you had to start all again, and they weren't happy obviously about a player leaving and coming back. So it was, you had to gain the reputation back again.
Yeah, geez, that must be really tricky. Are you feeling kind of, I know you said you don't regret it at this stage, but at that stage were you feeling like you regretted it at all? And what were your feelings at that time? I think at that stage of my career when that had happened, I think, obviously you're like, wow, like how can this happen to me? It was all meant to go smoothly and go well. But, I think I just, as a footballer, whether you're doing well or doing poorly, you just, the fundamentals of everything is just to keep playing and keep improving. So, obviously you might feel less optimistic or less confident at times, but at the end of the day, you're going and playing in a game which,
you got to do well anyway every week in, week out. So I think I just went back to the basics and went back into the NPL. And I think I was in, I was 19 years old playing first grade at NPL level. It wasn't the worst place you could be at all, Still had a lot of eyes on you. This is a future talent, blah, blah, blah. So, I think I just kind of the expectations obviously lowered, but just went back to focusing on the game.
Yeah, and I should just say to the listeners who aren't quite as au fait with football, that NPL is kind of the state league's second tier in Australia, I suppose, and you spend a couple of years plugging away there upon your return from Belgium, and I know you signed for the Wanderers after that, but just before you signed for the Wanderers, what are your kind of career goals, aspirations looking like then? Are they the same as what they were in Belgium or a bit less?
Well, I think my whole goal was just to try and get into the A-League set up again. I think it's funny, at 19, 20, at 19, I think it was, I was feeling like I was getting old, which for some reason Australia makes you feel like that. And young players in general now think at 19, 20, 21, they're old, but wow, you're not at all. Like, it's just that Australia has, obviously, if you're 20, 21, an A-League club tends, back in that day, I felt like, I guess my feeling was that they wouldn't touch you. You're too old at that age, which just totally isn't true. I don't think I developed as a footballer till I was, I still don't think I've hit my peak and I'm turning 30 next year, I really don't. But yeah, I guess at that stage it was all about just trying to show my form in the NPL to be able to give myself an opportunity for even a trial in the A-League. Which I think by that I'd moved from Manly to Marconi, and which was a bigger club in the NPL setups, and had a good season, and ended up getting signed, I think, as the last Western Sydney Wanderer for that inaugural season.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It was a cracking season for the Wanderers. But before we get onto that, how are you treated by your peers and I guess the coaches and stuff as well? When you're still young guys, we spoke about, but perhaps you may be a bit more mature, having gone overseas, but obviously your first one didn't really go to plan. So are you treated differently to the rest of the people, or are you just kind of, one of the rest of them?
I think I remember when I was in that Marconi squad, it was full of, again, it was quite an old squad, and I was one of the only young players who was in that starting 11. And I think at a football level, like if you're producing on the pitch, you instantly have respect from the group, no matter what you had done previously or anything. It's just all what you do on the pitch. And I think I was performing that year, and they were all people I knew, because a lot of them were from Manly, because I think there was a big switch from a few Manly boys to that Marconi squad. And again, there were a lot of players in their 30s who were like, a good guidance for me in a way, being a young player as well. So I think, again, it's kind of like that establishment of my early experiences, whether it be the senior players at Sydney FC or the senior players in that Marconi squad, kind of steered me in the right, mental direction in a way to make me be able to perform and produce and do what I did in those seasons. Because you see a lot of young players get sidetracked really quickly, and their eyes are taken away from the thing that's most important, which is performing on the pitch. And I think that served me really well. It was a good older change room, but they treated me with respect and as one of them, and it was really good.
Yeah, and I'm getting back onto Western Sydney now, signing for the Wanderers, the last player of the first season, like you said, and obviously it was a bit of a not quite obviously for people who don't know it as well, but a bit of a golden season for the Wanderers there in their first season. I think they won the premiership. Didn't quite happen in the final, so didn't get that grand final win. But what was the atmosphere like at the club in that first season? It must have just been, was it surprised at how good you were all going?
I guess if you weren't in the environment, you would be. But it was, within the environment, it was just, it was an unbelievable level of professionalism. It's still probably the most professional setup I've ever been involved in, and the most demanding. It was just, I think the level at which, I think, because Tony Popovic was the coach at the time, and he had a lot of great support staff there as well. I think it was Ante Milicic was the assistant, and Adam Waddison was the S&C coach, who they've all gone on to bigger and better things, But yeah, it was just, they got, in that first year, they got so much out of every player. I think every player was so much closer to their potential than they were in previous seasons. So, and you could see why. If you were within the environment, it was just the level of motivation, the level of detail and everything was, was the most I've ever been involved in still. So I think, it's not a surprise looking back on it, but it was just, it was a pretty incredible season.
What's Tony Popovich like as a coach?
Yeah, no, I think there's obviously a lot of mixed opinions about it, but I really respected him, and I really, I found his way of working with his players really good for me. And I'm sure he's developed since I was there at that time, because he's been coaching for, years now after that. But yeah, no, it's just the level of detail and his commitment to the club and to the team. You could tell he was the first in every morning and the last to leave. So, as a player, you respect that from a coach, because I've had coaches who don't do that. So as a player, you lose that respect for the coach, and you lose that kind of like, well, what are you giving to us players if you're not giving your all? So, he was a very good coach.
How did he handle playing 13 games? It's in your first season there. It's not too bad at all. But then you left the club after that first season. How did he handle it, and how did you handle that departure?
Yeah, it was. I remember that I was on a 1-year contract, and I was a little bit, obviously towards the end of the season, I kind of wanted to know what was happening, which is normal for any player. And the club obviously, they decided to let me go, but it was with the kind of recommendation to another club. So I think I obviously went to Newcastle after that, but it was a funny one. I think obviously I still have respect for Hopper, and it was just a decision that he preferred another striker. I was disappointed to leave, because I thought I was only starting, I was only beginning, and I look back at that year as a player and how it was my first year in a professional, proper environment playing, and I look back at photos of what I was like then, and I was, I think I was 74 kilos and I looked sick. I wasn't. There was too much. There was too much load, and it was too much. I feel like if I approached it as I approach it now, I would have been a different. So if I had 2 or 3 more years there, I think it would have been nice to see what happened. But that was the club's decision. So it was it was disappointing, but that's how it happened.
So if you were to approach that as you would approach it now, what does that approach look like? What changes?
I think just being a little bit more, I don't know. I think I was so happy to be there, and so stressed on doing everything right, and I could have relaxed and enjoyed it a little bit more, and express myself as a footballer a bit more. I think I was too busy trying to, win every fitness test and get all the running done, instead of just going out and showing what I can do as a player and a striker, and going out and enjoying myself at times and being a bit more relaxed about things. I think that actually helps a lot to your game if you're a little bit more, a little bit more complete as a whole. I think I was just a little bit too, I wouldn't say stressed about it all, but just overly uptight about it. I think I could have, but it was my first year as a professional footballer, and I was so happy to get that opportunity. So I think I can understand why I was like that. And I think a lot of young players probably go through that too. But, I think it takes a few years at that level to be able to be like, okay, go out and do your thing and trust that you can do it. I think, that would have helped.
Yeah, right. Now, after that, few appearances for Newcastle, few appearances in the NPL again, but then few appearances in Hong Kong. Well, tell me about Hong Kong.
Yeah, it was a funny time. I guess it was like obviously Newcastle was a bit disappointing. I think I went there with quite a few expectations to get a bit more opportunity, but I think Adam Taker was there, top goal scorer that year, and Heskey was there. And I think Michael Bridges was there and Joel Griffiths was there. And they were all brought in after me. So I was like, well, how am I going to get my opportunity here? So, and then to be honest, I think I was going to get a new contract. Then Ben Egmond, I think he got sacked, and the club obviously brought in a new coach. So it was, again, it was just poor timing of things. But again, dropped out of the A-League, which was disappointing. And then went off to Hong Kong, I think it was. I think I had a little brief stint in the NPL because there was a few games left, but then went off to Hong Kong and probably learned how not to do a foreign move again. It probably wasn't the greatest football experience, but again, it was a good experience as a person.
What went wrong in Hong Kong?
No, it was just it was a rushed move, and it was a move based on going to a club in order to get a transfer from that. So I think I moved to a team that had just got promoted from the Hong Kong second division. I was the first year in the top division for a while. It was a shambles, to be honest. It was no one really spoke English, and it's hard to explain. It was just I played every game, but we were just defending the whole time. So you look at someone's CV and it says a striker, 12 appearances, 1 goal, but I don't know what more I could have done because I probably touched the ball about 6 times. So it was it's like, obviously when you're making that move, you got to kind of know where you're going and know what you're getting yourself into. But I didn't really do that. I was just desperate to get back into a professional setup.
So you were like telling your agent that you want to get overseas and into a professional setup, or were you kind of doing it a bit yourself and putting yourself out there?
Well, again, it was I wasn't connected with any agent at that time. It was more through a mandate deal. So it was like an agent had contacted me and said, "Do you want this opportunity?" And I was like, "Well, I'd prefer an adventure rather than another season in the NPL." So I jumped on it, and and again, it worked out that I could go to the NPL season the next year because I was only there for 6 months. So it was a short stint, but it kind of set me up well for Blacktown, to be honest, for the next season after that.
Yeah, totally. And we'll get on to Blacktown in a sec. But I do want to go back to Newcastle because you mentioned that Joel Griffiths and Emil Heskey and some other attackers and other strikers got signed after you. What's that feel like? I don't want to put words in your mouth here at all, but does that feel like kind of betrayal at all from the higher-ups at Newcastle that maybe you were promised one thing and given another?
Oh, no, not really. I think Heskey was there already. It was more, I think it was when the club is, I think the club were performing a little bit below expectation. I don't think they weren't having a horrible season. They were expected to make finals, and I think they were sitting in 7th, 8th most of the year. And I think the club obviously wanted them to be in the finals. So I think, and usually the players that clubs sign to make a big difference are strikers and attackers, so they invest in that. It was, I think, it's totally normal for that to happen. It was just, I just feel I guess every player in my position would feel the same thing, though. I just would have liked to have had a bit more opportunity. But then again, maybe, that's my opinion. Maybe I wasn't showing enough on the training pitch as well. It's a matter of opinion, the game. But, I guess it was a little bit disappointing being involved in the team who had won the premiership the year before, and then going to a team who was obviously mid-table, lower table, and then not even getting a look in. You know, it was quite frustrating, you know, to be honest.
Yeah, right. And I promised a bit of Blacktown talk. I'll get onto that now. You won the whole thing, the whole NPL with them in 2015. Scored a couple of goals in the grand final as well against Bayswater, I think, in WA. So you're obviously a more experienced player now, obviously fully part of the setup. I think you were right up there in terms of the top goal scorers in the league. Man of the match in the grand final, I think, as well. How does that stack up to winning the A-League really early on in your career as... bit part player might even be a bit of an overstatement, getting 4 minutes in the season.
Yeah, no, I think some of my memories at Blacktown are my best footballing memories, you know, I think. And I've got, you know, some of the boys that are still playing there are real good mates of mine, you know, like real good mates. And I have, they're all some of my best footballing memories, you know. And when I go back to Australia, I go to Blacktown to train, even though I'm living on the Central Coast. So, and I'm hoping to do that again this off season. When I get home, I'll probably try and hook up with the boys again and train and do my off season training there, because I really enjoy it, and it's a good level, good standard. But yeah, no, I really feel like I just playing regular football in a strong NPL team with a good culture, and you know some good leadership from the coach and the players. It was real good 5 years, I think it was. You know, that's the reason I stayed so long, because it was a real good environment to be in, you know, and real successful.
Did you have opportunities to go elsewhere during your 5-year stint there?
Little sniffs every now and then, you know, but there was nothing too serious, nothing too big that was. Or there's always like different parts of Asia that are looming, you know, like maybe like a Thailand or a Cambodia type of thing, which aren't really that, you know, you got to kind of think about it and be like, well, okay, what's the club? What level is it? You know, because there's some really good opportunities in those areas, but there's some really bad ones as well. But nothing really came up that was worth pursuing, in my opinion. So and obviously I was, part of a successful club and playing with people I really enjoyed. And that's why I stayed.
So like some opportunities come up here and there. Do you reckon a younger Joey or a Joey who hadn't been burnt by his last couple times overseas, do you reckon he takes kind of opportunity he doesn't know too much about, might not be great in a Thailand or a Cambodia or wherever it may be?
No, not really, to be honest, because I think I always, you know, it never really made me less likely to make another move. I always, I think from those experiences, I learned to make, I just learned what not to do. It never stopped me from, it never made me disregard a decision at all. I just made me think about it a little bit more, you know, which I think is good. You know, there's a lot that can go wrong. There's a lot that can go right. But I think, I just remember nothing really coming up that was worth it, you know, which is important. You don't want to force a move like I think I did with Hong Kong. It was a bit forced. And I think the Belgian one was just unlucky. But yeah, I think I just got a little bit more wiser with it.
Yeah, right, okay. And just back on Blacktown for a sec. As much as we'd love it to be, banging in goals for Blacktown in the NPL probably doesn't make a man a decent living, does it?
Yeah, you're obviously semi-professional at that level, you know, like, but I remember I was actually studying, and, you know, with the sale, it was enough to get by. Obviously in summer you have to find another way to get a bit of money, but it was all okay in the winter period. You know, it actually worked out quite well. But yeah, like it's the hardest thing about the NPL is I think there's good standard of players. It's just sometimes you don't get the crowds and the atmospheres which you'd like. You know, I think sometimes it's a little bit quiet. You know, there's not enough people watching games, which is the most, I guess, underwhelming thing about the NPL for me. That was always the problem.
Yeah. Right. Okay. And I think, it's probably reasonable to say if people want to get out there and support their local NPL team, it's definitely a worthwhile thing to do.
Because real good footballers out there. You know, that's the thing. It's never the footballers I thought was the problem. It was just it would be nice to see more support there. You know, or more engagement in it all.
Yeah, and I think from the big games, the games that do draw big crowds, perhaps like a rivalry or FFA Cup game or anything like that, we know you can have some cracking atmospheres there when the crowds come. It's just about the crowds coming, really. But you mentioned you were studying there and working jobs in the off season. So what were you studying and what were you working as?
Yeah, I studied. I did my Bachelor of Exercise Sports Science. And now I actually just finished my Master of Teaching. Actually, I was doing it while I was over here as well. So I've got those two on the boat. When it comes to work, I've done a bit of everything. Usually in the summer, it would be, I think I've gone from, I've been doing coaching to a bit of factory work to a bit of even working at a local sports store, things like that. So I've done a bit of everything because it always came around. In summer, you had to find a little bit of work and find a way to make a bit of money. So it was usually what you could find.
What's the professionalism of the competition like in Iceland?
Well, I think it's kind of like maybe half the squad's paid enough to get by on, especially all the foreigners are, and then kind of the other half of the squad doesn't get paid that much, to be honest. But the majority of players do work and play still, even in the top teams that are playing Champions League playoffs. It's an interesting culture. But they're all very nothing job, or not, that's the wrong word. They're all very easy jobs if they're doing anything. It's like sitting at a car rental for 3 hours or something like that. It's all pretty relaxed. But it's just their culture to kind of train in the afternoon. So there's not much training in the morning like you'd see in an A-League setup and that, it tends to occur around 2 or 3 p.m. where, so boys can study or can have a part-time job in the morning.
Yeah, right. Okay. And I guess the obvious question here is how does an NPL player who's banging in the goals for Blacktown, how does he end up in Iceland?
Yeah, it was. I was surprised at how quickly the move went. I think it was a connection between our coach at the time, our coach who is now, who I think he knew one of my previous coaches in Australia, because I think he was close to getting a technical director job with the FFA, and I think there was just a connection there where obviously a coach was looking for a striker, and he'd seen. Obviously, an agent had sent my name through, and he obviously saw the referral, saw the two names or clubs of a previous coach that he knows, and got a good recommendation. And it all happened like that. It was really quick, and which is usually rare. Obviously, if you're coming from an NPL setup to anywhere in Europe or even sometimes Asia, you have to trial or you have to do something like that. But it was just a straight out contract, so it all happened really quick.
Did you move over there with your partner? Is that right?
No. She's over now. She's just in the next room. She finally got over with COVID and all that, but not initially. I just went over by myself, and then obviously that's when COVID and everything struck. It was an interesting beginning here as well.
Yeah, right. So you're living alone, and is it? What's Keflavik like as a city? Is it kind of, I don't know, the stereotype of living in a bit of a shack, or like you're living in a kind of the Joey Gibbs mansion? What's it like?
It's definitely not a mansion, but I wouldn't call it a shack either. It's like a small little, nice, cozy studio apartment type of thing. It's actually quite nice. But the town itself's pretty quiet. It's actually the airport town. Everywhere in Iceland's pretty quiet. It's a small place, but it can get a little bit boring at times, not going to lie. It's a country where it's like the most unbelievable scenery you'll ever see. So, if you get bored, just go drive your car for an hour or two and you'll see, a volcano and two geysers or something. So you can always find a way to entertain yourself.
Yeah, phenomenal. I think the population's only like 30,000 more than the Central Coast or something, which is just crazy. And they qualified for a World Cup, and I think, what was it? They got into the quarterfinals of the Euros or round of 16, one of quarterfinals, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and they got like 4 levels of football. Like, they're obviously not all professional at all, but they love their football here, and they do things quite well and they produce a lot of talent for the small population they have.
Yeah, do you reckon Keflavik would be much chop in the A-League?
Well, I get asked this quite a bit, actually, like what the standard is. I'd probably say like it's above the NPL level, but I don't think would struggle in the A-League. The A-League is quite a high level, but I'm trying to think maybe because we're obviously far from the best team in our competition. We just got promoted last year, but probably one of the top teams in our competition would do quite well in the A-League. I think they'll be a good team. I think it's kind of Keflavik at the moment would be struggling a bit in the A-League, but it would be killing it in the NPL, I think.
Yeah, right. Now, I've got the top goal scorers from the Icelandic top division here. I've got my list here from last season. We've got Nikolai Hansen, Hallgrimur Mar Steingrimsson, Arnie Vilhjálmsson, Sævar Atli Magnusson, Patrick Pedersen, Christian Steindorsen, Matthias Vilhjálmsson, Askai Sigurgeisen, Kjartan Finnbogason, Stephen Lennon, and Joey Gibbs. So what makes Joey Gibbs, who is noticeable lack of the son at the end of his name there, I reckon, what makes him so prolific in Iceland?
Fun fact, like their names come from so you get your dad's name and you put son on it, so that's why they're all got the sons on it, and the girls get their mum's name plus, I think it's the dad's name plus the daughter on it or something like that. So I think last year, as in the year when we were in the second division, we were obviously a good team in that division, and I got a lot of well-worked team goals, and I was finishing, and a lot of, some would say easier goals. But I think this year was a bit of a different year. I think I had to score different goals because we were obviously on the back foot a lot, and a lot of goals from counter-attacks or set pieces or, harder goals in my opinion. So I was quite happy to, I think I got 10 in the league and 14 all up. So I was quite happy with that total, to be honest, considering where we finished as a team. And it was just a lot harder to score this year, being one of the weaker teams in the league. I think it was very different years. It's hard to compare, when you look at how the goals were scored, I guess.
Yeah. Right, but in terms of your skill set as a player, what are your real kind of strengths?
I think, I guess my strengths as a player, I think probably knowing my timing of movements and runs, especially in the box, anticipating where that ball's going to go at times, so it's just kind of reading the game. I think obviously my hold-up play and stuff like that is quite good as well. And I never thought I was much of a header of the ball, but I've scored a few headers here, which is kind of rare. But it's kind of like my trade here. I've scored a lot of headers, which I didn't really do in Australia. So I don't know, somehow that's developed. I'm not sure why, but it's not. I don't really go out practicing headers, but maybe it's just the delivery is quite good or something. But yeah, it's.
Right, yeah, there you go. And we were talking about the names before, and I've just had a look. If you were called Joey Gibson, I'm not sure if you'd want to be called that because there is another Joey Gibson and he's a far-right political activist. So I don't know if you'd want to be associated with political activists too radical on either side of the spectrum.
Yeah,
really.
Hates on Twitter, maybe, you never know.
Yeah. Since you've moved to Iceland, though, it's obviously totally different lifestyle to living in Sydney or wherever it may be in Australia. Super quiet, like you said. What do you reckon the most interesting thing you've learned is since you've been over there?
Yeah, well, it's been weird, like I came over and then straight into an 8-week lockdown before I even met the team. I think I had 1 week training with the team and then straight into proper 8-week isolation where you can't even do anything, so it was, and then that whole season again was COVID break, even if you wanted to go out and have dinner and maybe have a drink with the team, it was like bars were shut at 10 and like all these weird things. So I've kind of just started experiencing the real Iceland this year, to be honest. But yeah, it's a lovely place. I think the capital Reykjavik's like a really nice town, like really beautiful in winter with like snow falling on the streets, like nice little coffee stores, and it's just like you wouldn't call it a city, but it's a big town, and it's a lovely culture, lovely people. Like obviously very harsh language. It's hard to kind of learn and understand, but they all know English really well. So
have you picked any of the Icelandic language up?
Yeah, I know the food. It's the most important thing to learn. So I know the foods quite well. Like like there's kjot is meat, kjúklinga chicken, fiska fish. What else we got? Alvexter, I think that's fruit or veggies. One of them. Broiled is bread. So yeah, I know a few things. Enough to get me by.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Have you tried to cook up any of the Icelandic cuisine in the Gibbs household kitchen, or is it just kind of sticking to the Vegemite sandwich?
Yeah, I do toast really well, so I just stick to toast. But we've got a team restaurant which sorts out with food pretty well, so I don't usually have to cook too much, which is good. Yeah.
What kind of food do they sort you out with? Is it Icelandic food, or what is the Icelandic food?
They do a lot of fish
actually?
here,
Yeah.
It's known for its fishing, so there's a lot of good fish here, and yeah, so I have a lot of fish, and they do like one of their meat soup is a big one here. Sheep's head, haven't tried that, but they love their sheep's head. So they eat some funny things, the Icelandics, but
yeah. Now we're coming to the end before we get to our little kind of fun thing. Got a few more questions. They're kind of deeper ones, maybe a bit uncharacteristic for this show, but that's what we have to wrap things up, I guess. So we were talking about your kind of career goals at various stages of your career before, but at this stage now, what are your aspirations for the rest of your football career?
Yeah, like I was saying before on the show, I feel like I still not really at my peak yet. I feel like I can still give a lot more, and sometimes it's a bit limiting in the profession being 29 turning 30, because people see you as like you're on the down, or you're going to be downhill soon. But no, for me, I still obviously really ambitious, and I'd, if possible, love to make a move to maybe a better Nordic country if possible, maybe something like that. That's kind of the ambition. And obviously, while I'm at Keflavik, I'd want to be as successful as possible and, try and do our best to win trophies and at a personal level, score goals. So that's the ambition.
Do you reckon you can hit that target of maybe getting to another Scandinavian or Nordic country if you kind of keep at the form you're at, smashing them in at the moment?
Yeah, potentially. I think, I think it also all depends on transfer fees and whether you're on contract and things like that or not. So I think I've got another year on the contract, which means if it had to happen, it would be a transfer fee, which would make things a bit tougher because transfer fees aren't usually paid for older players at my level, not the highest level, obviously, but if I was in a free agent, so to speak. I think it could definitely be possible, you know. So, but we'll have to wait and see. It all depends on the moment and the timing of things as well, you know.
Yeah, and another kind of deepish question that throughout your whole life so far, you've probably had a few kind of pinch yourself moments being a professional footballer at various stages. Is there a particular story that you reckon you might be telling your grandkids around the campfire?
Ooh, yeah, well, to be honest, I think, you know, I think the craziest thing is that we've already gone over it. You know, it was just that whole debut with Sydney FC in a grand final, and I think, you know, if you were, you know, telling your grandkids, so to speak, I think it's quite a lovely story with a bit of meaning to it. Is the whole, you know, in that same year coming off, having double stress fractures in both legs and being in a wheelchair, and then that happening too. So I think that would be a nice little story to tell. And I still look back at that sometimes, and you know, it's a good reminder of how quickly things can change, good or bad, in football. So yeah, that's there's probably a few more, but can't really think of them right now. But that's the one that sticks out the most, you know.
Yeah, totally. I think it would stick out the most for just about any Australian footballer. But another one, but in, I don't know, 50, 60 years' time where you're a bit older, a bit of an old man, what do you want to have achieved in life, I suppose?
Yeah, you know, I think I obviously got my degree in teaching and all that. I'm looking forward to, obviously I love football and love to stay involved in football, but I'm also looking forward to, you know, like, you know, I know it sounds weird, but being able to be in a new profession and you know, have my own kids and be able to teach kids and things like that. I think, you know, I'd love to be someone who can, you know, obviously as a teacher, you teach the curriculum, but give good advice to kids and, you know, just be a good role model as well. You know, it sounds a bit, you know, what's the word, a bit funny, but I actually enjoy and would like to be that older person who, you know, gives good advice and is a good role model and can tell a few good stories and give some good advice to the younger generation. You know, I'm kind of I hope I'm that old man, not the angry one who just complains about noise. You know, that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, no, you said it sounds funny, but it's actually really nice. Do you reckon you'd be the kind of fun PE teacher guy, obviously being a sports person now, or have you got a hidden knowledge of physics or something that you haven't told me about?
No, well, at least I'm doing primary school, so I think I'm all sweet with the content. Just, you know, sometimes maths is a bit tricky, that primary school maths, but I think, I think I think it's important to try and make kids enjoy school. Obviously, you make them do the right things as well, but you know, I think I'd be pretty easygoing and yeah, not too chill, but I think I'd like to be, you know, have a bit of fun with them as well.
Yeah, well, I've had a lot of fun in this show, and we've got a final question before we get on to this long-awaited now final segment. We ask it at the end of every episode. Life philosophy. Have you got a life philosophy, a quote, anything like that you live by?
Yeah, that's an interesting. I've started reading a lot of the kind of the Stoic philosophy type of thing, you know. So I have this book where it's like 365 days, and there's a different kind of message from an old Stoic philosopher, you know, where it's Marcus Aurelius or Seneca or something like that, you know. I think so there's all these different little inputs of wisdom each day, but when it comes to me, I don't know. I guess I'm always trying to live it, to be honest. But there's an old, well, not old, but I listen to his podcast sometimes, Craig Duncan, and he has this thing called the deathbed scorecard. It sounds a bit morbid, but it just really appealed to me. It's like a kind of a more of a notion of looking at, you know, when you're on your deathbed, what are the most important things that you'll be thinking about, or what you'll be remembered for. You know, it's kind of quite broad in saying that, but you know, it's like, yeah, I don't think of it every day, but it's something I think it's kind of cool to think about sometimes, you know, like puts things in perspective, and you know, it's kind of a way of rating what's most important for you right now and in the future, you know.
That's a cracking answer, mate. We've just ticked over 58 minutes. So thank you very much for all the stories that you've told throughout this. But now, of course, the final segment. Where do we begin quiz? We've got a special guest coming on, so I will hit the music. Gets you very fired up, doesn't it? That pretty epic quiz music, I've got to say. Of course, we've got Joey here, but since Lockie Gibbs, actually, maybe a distant cousin, isn't here on this episode of the show, we've got there you go. We've got a fill-in for the quiz. He's from Kick 360. He's a journalist, fine young journalist, I've got to say. Patrick Bruschetto, how are you, mate?
Good, thanks very much, Harper. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. I'm very excited to have you on. Ready for a good quiz for you guys to lock horns. Should be an epic battle. You guys are ready to get into it? I'll explain how it all runs.
Do it.
Sounds good.
Okay. So I've got 5 questions, and they all they loosely link to Joey and his career, but it's not like what number did Joey wear for the Newcastle Jets or anything like that. It's bit vague, a bit loose, so should be a competitive clash. 5 questions, like I said. Your name is your buzzer, and of course, we'll start with question 1. Here we go. So, question 1 is the closest to the pin question. Joey, am I right in saying that your birthday is the 13th of June?
Yeah, Joey, it is.
Yeah.
No
point for that.
Easy question. That's a point. Come on.
No point for that, I'm afraid, Joey. But something else that happened on the 13th of June in 1922, so a few years before you were born, I'd say, Joey, the longest recorded attack of hiccups began. So this guy called Charlie Osborne from the United States of America hiccuped between 20 and 40 times a minute for how many years? Closest to the pin.
Joey. We'll say 4 years.
4 years is incorrect, but it is closest to the pin, so you could still get the point. Patrick, what do you reckon?
3 years. Why not?
3 years is also incorrect, and I can reveal that the answer is 68 years. So, Joey gets the point.
I was a bit off there.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Bloke. That's a horrible bloke.
I think it might be fair to say that Joey, maybe not quite deserving of the point there, but he gets it anyway. Old Charlie Osborne, he had it for 68 years, finally got rid of it, and sadly he died 11 months later. So didn't get to live much of a life without the hiccups. But we'll move to question 2. Joey is 1-0 up. So this question is, what is the stage name of the actress whose real name was Frances Ethel Gum and is best known for playing the role of Dorothy Gale in The Wizard of Oz?
The missus would probably know this. I don't know.
Yeah, right. I was a bit unsure if one of you guys would get this, if you were maybe 1930s musicals fans, but
not a chance. Not a chance.
I'll give you a bit of a clue. You might not get it from this, but we'll see how it goes. Of course, Joey's initials, JG. This person is also a JG stage name. Okay, if I say their first name is Judy, would you be able to get that? Okay, I think we're displaying a very kind of masculine knowledge base here in this episode.
I can give it Pat. I'll give it a crack.
Yeah, okay, Pat.
Is it Garland? Got no idea. That is a complete guess. Garland.
Judy Garland is absolutely correct.
Oh, okay. There you go.
There you go.
I've given it to you on a plate a bit there, I must say. But yeah.
Thank you for the it's the 1v1 and you've slid it across the box for me to tap into the open goal. But a goal is a goal. A point is a point.
Yeah, well, you both got some fairly kind of cheap points there. But it's 1-1. It's 1-1. So level scores here. We'll move on to question 3. So, Joey, the team you played for in Hong Kong is called Tai Po. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, Tai Po. And, of course, that also might be known as a typo, kind of course, misspelling something in a text or a message or anything like that. So very common typo is the 2 and 2 and 2, T-O, T-O-O, T-W-O. So I'm going to give the point to whoever can define the 3 twos.
Pat. Okay, I'll give it a go.
Pat.
So TWO, the number 2.
Yep.
TO is just saying to Joey or to Harper. And then TOO is like, oh, I have that too.
You know what?
Is that all I need?
Yeah, I'll give it to you. It's all you need. The standard hasn't been too high so far, so we'll give you the point. Very nicely done. It's gone 2-1 up. But we've got 2 more questions, of course. We'll move on to question 4. So, I believe you signed with the Wanderers, or the announcement of the signing with the Wanderers, Joey, was on the 3rd of October 2012. Patrick, you're a Wanderers fan as well, so maybe this kind of links to both of you very, very loosely. So I'm going to read out the lyrics to the song that was number 1 in Australia on the day of your Wanderers signing announcement, the 3rd of October 2012. So you can buzz in whenever you'd like, but once you buzz in and get it wrong, you're gone. So you just got to give me the name of the song. And here are the lyrics. Naji nuda saro un inga jo gim yoja. Kopi hajana yoyu ana punto inun yoja. Bani onya shinjanki tugawa shin yoja. Joey. Early.
That's that Korean song. Oh, it's something. It was on
I can keep going. I can keep going if you want, and you can buzz in again.
Gangnam.
Would you like me to do? I'll do it.
Gangnam something. Gangnam Style. Is it Gangnam Style?
I might have heard your part now, giving you the answer there.
Go on, Gab. Well done.
Nicely done.
Get off Google.
I remember at Wanderers games back in that first season, they would have a Gangnam Style cam, and there would be fans doing that, and they'd go around and they'd do the dance.
I remember that too. Yeah.
And, a big thank you to Gab, your partner, Joey, for letting me off the hook, not having to read any more lyrics, not having to read any more lyrics in Korean, because
you did well. Though. You did well.
I must say, I was kind of practicing it a bit last night, working out the English pronunciations of all the words. But anyway,
fluent in Korean,
5. Yeah, I wish. But move to question 5. It's 2-2. You're locked at 2 each. But question 5, there's potential to win big here because it's a who am I question. I'm going to give you a series of clues, all leading to who I am. Start with a 5-point clue, going all the way down to a 1-point clue. So once you buzz in and get it wrong, you can't buzz in again until the other person gets it wrong. I'll start with the 5-point clue. So I was born on the 13th of June as well, but in 1975 in Sydney. Neither of you need to get it there, so I'll move on to the 4-point clue. I debuted for the Socceroos against Bahrain in an Asian Cup qualifier in February 2006, and 4 months later, found myself in the Socceroos squad at the World Cup in Germany.
Joey? I could be totally... Is it Scott Chipperfield?
Scott Chipperfield. Let me get a bit of a drum roll going. It's incorrect.
Yeah, okay.
Right,
I don't know why I thought of that. I just felt it.
Patrick, it's all yours now, so unless you get it wrong...
All right.
You're looking good here, mate. And I forgot to play it before, but I'm going to hit... There's a bit of a who am I question music, so I'll hit that now. Okay, for 3 points. I plied my trade at various NSL clubs and had short stints with European sides in the late 90s and early 2000s before finally settling at Sweden's Hammarby, where I played 121 games.
Pat. I think I've got. Is it Ante Kovic?
Ante Kovic will get another drum roll going. Joey, what do you reckon? Do you reckon it is Ante Kovic?
I'm trying to think if we had the same birthday.
Oh, crap. I didn't think of that, actually. Oh, no.
Yeah, I'll say yeah, I think so.
Okay. So...
I think, yeah, maybe.
If Pat's got it here, he's won it by 3 points. And I've kind of let the tension with the drum roll go, so I'll do another drum roll. The answer is Ante Kovic.
Oh, there you go.
Very, very nicely done. And Pat has taken out the quiz. 5 points to 2. Well done, Pat. Yeah. Anyone you'd like to dedicate that win to? That was a very good performance at the end there. Not at the start so much, though.
we'll ignore the start and us failing to know the hiccups and the Wizard of Oz, but I'll dedicate this win to the great people at Kick 360 and go and find some wonderful Australian football content, especially as the season is about to start very soon. There's going to be lots of excellent content on there, so go check the writing from yours truly, also some other amazing writers, Tom Williams, Jack George, just to name a few. So, yeah, go check us out there.
Yeah, it's a cracking website. I've got a few pieces up there myself. If anyone wants to check that out, you stole my thunder a bit there, Pat. But
sorry, mate.
Thank you.
Sorry.
That's all right. But Patrick, thank you very, very much for joining us on the quiz and taking it out. Thank you very much, Matt.
No problems. Thanks for having me.
And Joey, we've got. It's been a long chat. It's been a very, very good chat. So thank you very much for joining me as well, Matt.
Been a pleasure, mate. I really enjoyed it. It's been good.
That's good. And just to the listeners, of course, it's Monday today when this episode comes out. Tuesday, Australian time, we're thinking at the moment. Time zone's a bit weird, but Joey's going to do an Instagram takeover on the Where Do We Begin Instagram story at WDWB Pod. You can ask questions, do whatever you'd like, Joey, see how it goes. So check that out if you'd like content at wheredowebegin.com.au as well, if you'd like to have a look at that. And that's just about it from me, just about it from all of us, I reckon. So thank you for tuning in to the show for another week. It's been a pleasure talking to you, been a pleasure having you, Joey, on the show, and you, Pat, joining us for the quiz. So thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Naji nuda saro un inga jo gim yoja. Kopi hajana yoyu ana punto inun yoja. Bani onya shinjanki tugawa shin un yoja. Joey, ban jon inun yoja. Arundawo, sarang sorowo, kure no, gurbaru no. Arundawo, sarang sorowo, kure no, gurbaru no. 지금부터 갖다까지 가볼까.
Don't touch the ball, you little C word.
What went wrong? What went wrong? What went wrong in Hong Kong?
Kevin Muscat said, don't touch the ball, you little C word.